Hello guys, welcome to Crunchy Tales. I am Gemma, your snack time movie companion. The story begins at an airport where we see a pilot named Brad. He is walking quickly toward his aircraft while talking to his daughter on a video call. His daughter tells him that she watched the news in the morning, which reported that the weather in the area he is heading toward is extremely bad. Because of this, many flights have already been canceled. She worries about his safety and asks him to cancel his flight as well and come back home. Brad smiles reassuringly and replies that he has safely flown planes through such dangerous weather many times before. He tells her not to worry and promises that he will return home soon. Hearing this, his daughter feels relieved and happily ends the call. Brad then enters the cockpit and meets his co-pilot. The co-pilot looks slightly nervous because this is his first time flying a flight. Just then, an air hostess comes and asks Brad to step outside. Outside, a police officer informs Brad that due to an emergency, he must carry a criminal on the flight. The criminal's name is Tony. Tony is a very strong and dangerous man, accused of murder, and he is being transported to another country to be imprisoned for life. The officer tells Brad that this responsibility is being given to him because he is a capable and sensible pilot. Brad agrees and seats Tony in the last row of the plane so that the other passengers remain safe. Soon, all the passengers take their seats. Brad confirms with the crew that everyone is on board and the plane finally takes off. After reaching cruising altitude, Brad sets the plane on autopilot and begins talking with his co-pilot about family. Brad shows him a photo of his daughter on his phone and says that he loves her deeply, and that in this world they only have each other. Meanwhile, the passengers are enjoying their journey, unaware that something terrible is about to happen. Everything seems normal. The pilots are relaxed and the plane is flying smoothly. Suddenly, the weather worsens. The aircraft begins to shake lightly, and Brad feels that something is not right. He immediately announces for all passengers to fasten their seatbelts and tries to contact the control tower via radio. However, due to the bad weather, all radio communication systems stop working. A powerful lightning strike suddenly hits the plane, causing violent turbulence. Brad leaves the cockpit to check on the passengers. Seeing that everyone is still safe gives him some relief, but the lights inside the aircraft slowly begin to go out. More violent jolts hit the plane. Brad is thrown forward, hits his head on the ceiling, and falls down, injuring his forehead. The passengers panic as the situation grows worse. Brad rushes back into the cockpit and, together with his co-pilot, struggles to regain control of the aircraft. Because of the storm, visibility is extremely poor. Brad realizes that they must lower the plane immediately, or another jolt could destroy it completely. They reduce the altitude rapidly, and the plane begins descending at high speed. The passengers are terrified. At that moment, the police officer escorting Tony drops his mobile phone. He unbuckles his seatbelt to pick it up, and an air hostess unbuckles hers to help him. Because the plane is descending rapidly, both of them are slammed violently into the ceiling the moment their seatbelts are off. The impact is so severe that both die instantly. Eventually, the plane reaches a lower altitude, and the pilots somehow manage to stabilize it. However, the aircraft now has very little power left, making it impossible to reach an airport. Brad decides that a crash landing in the sea may be the only option. Just then, they spot an island in the distance. Brad changes direction toward the island and decides to attempt an emergency landing there. After many difficulties, Brad successfully lands the plane on a road on the island. Luckily, all passengers survive the emergency landing without injuries. A short circuit occurs at the back of the plane, but Brad realizes this means there is still some remaining power. After all passengers exit the aircraft, an air hostess informs Brad that the police officer escorting Tony and another air hostess have died. This deeply upsets Brad. Elsewhere, the airline company's owner notices that one of his planes has suddenly disappeared. Due to radio failure, he has lost contact with the pilot. Concerned, he calls a rescue expert named Carsdale who specializes in finding people trapped in dangerous situations. He asks Carsdale for all details about the missing plane, its route, crew, and passengers. Back on the island, the passengers are confused about why they have landed there. Brad gathers everyone and explains that due to an emergency, they had no choice. He reassures them that there is still some power left and asks them to stay calm, promising that they will leave soon. Brad inspects the aircraft but realizes the power is too low, meaning they must wait for help. Using a map, they determine their location. The co-pilot reveals that they are stranded on a private island controlled by dangerous people who do not follow any government. If these people capture them, their lives will be in serious danger. Brad realizes they must contact a rescue team at any cost. The radio is completely destroyed by lightning, so Brad informs the passengers that it is not working. He then decides to go to the other side of the island to find another radio. Brad takes a bold step and decides to take Tony with him. He unlocks Tony's handcuffs and asks the co-pilot to focus on repairing the plane's power. Brad and Tony head into the jungle to search for communication equipment. On the way, Tony thanks Brad for trusting him. Meanwhile, a terrorist group living on the island learns about the plane's emergency landing. Their leader orders his men to prepare. As Brad and Tony move deeper into the jungle, Tony asks why Brad freed him. Brad replies that he cannot let everyone die because of him and that they must face a dangerous group together. Tony reveals that he has a military background and served in the U.S. military for many years. Suddenly, Tony disappears. Brad turns around and realizes Tony has escaped, leaving him alone in the jungle. Brad reaches an abandoned factory where he finds an old telephone. Though broken, he repairs the wires and manages to make it work. He calls the airline help center and explains their situation, but due to a bad connection, the call is cut off. Brad then calls his daughter and asks her to write down his location and deliver it to the airline office. During the call, a man attacks Brad from behind. Brad fights back and knocks him unconscious. Soon after, Tony reappears, armed and having killed several gang members. He gives Brad a gun for protection. Inside the factory, they discover recordings and passports that reveal the truth. The terrorists kidnap people, demand ransom from their families, and kill them even after receiving the money. Realizing the passengers are in grave danger, Brad and Tony head back. The terrorists attack the passengers, pretending to be rescuers. They force everyone into a bus and take them to their base. Brad and Tony capture 2 terrorists near the plane and force them to reveal the base's location. Meanwhile, Brad's daughter delivers the written message to Carsdale. Using satellite tracking, Carsdale locates the plane and confirms the presence of a dangerous terrorist group. A private rescue team is dispatched. Brad learns that the co-pilot has restored power to the plane. He leaves a message for the rescue team and heads toward the terrorist base with Tony. They infiltrate the camp, eliminate guards, free the passengers, and put them back on the bus. Brad decides to distract the terrorists while Tony escapes with the passengers. Brad is captured and beaten, but just in time, the private rescue team arrives and attacks the terrorists. Brad is saved. A massive gunfight follows. The terrorists are defeated, but their leader vows revenge. Brad rushes everyone back to the plane, knowing they cannot wait for official rescue. As the terrorists attack again, the private team holds them off. Tony covers the team until his bullets run out. He finds a bag of money, but chooses ammunition instead. As the plane prepares for takeoff, the terrorist leader tries to destroy it with a rocket launcher. Tony shoots and kills him just in time, saving everyone. Brad successfully takes off. Tony escapes into the jungle with the money, smiling as the plane flies away. Later, the plane suffers engine trouble again, but Brad manages another emergency landing on a runway. Everyone survives. Passengers applaud Brad and thank him. Rescue teams finally arrive. Brad sits on the plane's steps, calls his daughter, and breathes a sigh of relief. The story ends here. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to the channel and like the video.